Welcome, everyone, to the Union Federation podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, where we discuss both Star Trek and the Orville. My name is Kevin. I'd like to welcome you here, and our show today is Union Federation episode 207. We are discussing Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 5, Episode 10, The New Next Generation. And I'd like to introduce my crew. With me, as always, is, of course, my co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, Mr. Kyle Wagner. What's going on, brother?
I don't know if this is the right multiverse or not. I might have made that right turn at Albuquerque instead of the left turn, and my starship kept changing all throughout the travels. It's been a day.
Sounds like you're a lower decker to heart there, so that's good. We'd like to also welcome back the Oracle and our science officer and sometimes badass Klingon buddy here. Haley, what's going on, Haley?
Hey, whoa, I'm in 3D. This is new.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Things could get crazy. Hey guys.
Good to see you. Good to
see you as well.
Well, we are celebrating the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks, and this is episode 10, the final episode of Lower Decks, maybe, or at least in this incarnation. This is Union Federation podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, and we also hang out with the BQN. So there you go. As I said, we, of course, have been having a great time discussing the 5 seasons of Lower Decks, and this is it. This is the final one. I'm kind of sad. But before we go on, we want to let you know what other shows is happening on the Union Federation podcast here on YouTube, as well as your audio feed. Recently, we did a fun limited series. We did The Next Generation, where we covered every 2-part episode, where we reviewed them as well. And coming right around the corner in early 2025, we're going to be talking about USS Orville and its crew. And we're going to be profiling each main crew member, a couple episodes they've been in, and talking about them. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And the first one we're going to be talking about is Lieutenant Alara Katan. So make sure you check back with us on that. We do have some Star Trek news, guys. Now, Tawny Newsome, we know, Beckett Mariner, of course, here on Lower Decks. She's not going away. She's got some other Star Trek stuff. Now, we knew about that she was being involved in the Star Trek series, and Lower Decks Tawny Newsome shared some news update on her live-action Star Trek workplace comedy series. Now, this is kind of news to me. I knew she was working on something, but I didn't know she was working on a comedy series. Star Trek Lower Decks may have just finished its 5-year run, but Tawny Newsome, who voices Beckett Mariner on the show, is staying in the Trek universe. Newsome and Justin Simeon from Dear White People Haunted Mansion are developing a live-action Star Trek comedy series, which was announced over the summer of San Diego Comic-Con. Newsome recently talked with Variety about how the project is going so far. Quote, I am imminently on my way to a work session with Justin right after I get done with you. It's funny because as an actor, when I accidentally spoil somebody calls my manager and slaps my hand. But with writing, I truly feel like I will be fired and nothing will be greenlit if I F it up, she said. New tone for Trek. As for the approach of the new show, Newsome said it'll have a workplace comedy vibes. But the other thing is that we're changing. But the other thing is that we're changing so much as we go, having so much support with Secret Hideout, Alex Kurtzman's production company, and the company behind the most recent iterations of Star Trek, and the studio just being like, we love Trek. Let's take this thing in a new direction. It's been as good as development can go, but finding a way to do Trek in a workplace comedy type, it's new. Newsome said. I'm going to stop there before I go on because I want to get your guys' first reactions to this. I don't know. First of all, real quick, guys, did you have a chance to see the video that I posted of Tawny and Jack doing audio, and the showrunner was like, watching them do their stuff? Did you guys catch that at all? No. Okay.
No, I missed that one.
It's on YouTube. I also posted it on the Union Federation group. And it's basically them kind of doing some funny stuff, talking about how they're kind of wrapping things up and what it's like to be in the recording studio. But there was a gag in there that's not a gag, but you can kind of get it. Tawny Newsome is actually a Star Trek fan. But Jack, who plays Boimler, he doesn't know a lot about Trek. And sometimes when it comes to, is it Mike McMahon, the showrunner, when he's sometimes they'll mention some type of Star Trek thing, and Tiny will go, "You're off a little bit. That's not how it happened," So she knows her Star Trek. So knowing that and knowing what she's doing here, I'm kind of getting a Office type vibe, but in Star Trek. Haley, what are your thoughts on this news?
I'm intrigued. So it'll be really interesting. Like, I'd love to almost see it in like the realm of like, not necessarily Starfleet headquarters, but like, office, like some Starfleet office. Cause there's people who have to like do that kind of work for Starfleet. So I know we're getting the Academy show. So I almost, like I'm envisioning like a Starfleet, office, IT kind of vibe kind of thing, that because
Right.
I don't think like it would work on a ship per se. You could do it on a starbase, like a starbase, kind of thing.
That actually would be
And
fun if they did it at Starbase, and then
yeah,
all these stories with like incoming ships and stuff like that would be
and
interesting.
I mean that kind of falls in Deep Space Nine territory, but yeah, it has to lend itself to some kind of, just office work, people that work in an office that kind of help Starfleet run.
Yeah.
Because we've never had a show like that, like the back door of Starfleet, the inside stuff of like, the government officials. It's the government officials. It could be Starfleet, Washington politics kind of. Yeah, so interesting.
Well, Kyle, she does say that they're going to probably shoot for like a 30-minute episode type thing, and that Newsom also assured fans that she and Simeon won't do anything to tarnish Trek because Justin and I are die-hard Trekkies. I think we knew that. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm curious because this could go a few ways. That I could see it. There is one disappointing factor about this, is that she can't be a regular cast member in it because of obviously playing herself already in live action, or playing Mariner already in live action. That might be a little.
What if she does play Mariner though?
Yeah, if they bring
place
in
during the same time frame, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, but I'm intrigued by this because they could either do a starbase, they could even do, it's the one aspect of Star Trek that hasn't been dove into a ton, is what is Starfleet like on Earth?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What is going on with Starfleet on Earth? And I think that could be very interesting as well. And she is so talented, and I can't wait to see her as more of a writer and doing some of these things. Obviously, she's going to be also a writer on Starfleet Academy, and she's obviously very much become a huge player in the Trek community. So anything Tawny Newsom does, I'm in, no matter what it is, because I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt.
Haley?
What if it's like a Office meets Cheers, like kind of mesh of like the office work, but then they go and hang out at the bar, the karaoke bar, the comedy bar after kind of thing. And yeah, like it's on Earth. Cause I mean, that is one thing, like aside from, going and revisiting planets that I've always been interested in. Like,
It's
what is the
interesting you bring that up
aspect
because
of
Yeah.
life for humans on Earth that work in Starfleet, but they're not in Starfleet, like
remind me real quick, when does Lower Decks take place? What time frame?
It's in between like DS9, Voyager.
Well, no, because if Voyager's happened when,
yeah,
so it's right after Voyager,
yeah.
sometimes shortly after Voyager.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was thinking about your idea there, because it would be nice if she could come in and play herself live action. That would be nice. But it would be nice to know like what's happening around Starfleet this time, because Starfleet Academy that's taking place way in the future, where they're rebuilding Starfleet Academy. So I'd kind of like to see where they are during this time now that Voyager's come back, and where is Starfleet at this time? Because you could also like you said, you could transport down to Earth maybe and go to a bar that you like. That would be kind of fun, just kind of see what they are like off hours. But I hope that it's like either the hovering space station or somewhere on Starfleet Academy, because I think that's an important time to really explore what's happening during Starfleet, because that's an important time. You know, the Dominion War, so-called, has ended. You know, Voyager's back. They're probably still trying to figure out all the crap that Voyager's been going through. You know, so yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. I like that idea. So
It could be like a mishmash of enlisted and like, you know, because there are people who are in the military, they serve, and then they no longer enlisted, but they continue to work for the military in the same capacity that they did in the military. So you could kind of have this, you know, hodgepodge group of people that do stuff for Starfleet.
right.
And, you know, just kind of help Starfleet run, you know, like the people who are building the ships and
Yeah.
you know, the computer people and the people who write the laws and all that. Yeah, that would be fun.
Kyle?
Also, depending on the time frame, who can you get for guest stars?
So many people.
Yeah. That would be kind of
So many
fun.
people.
Yeah, totally. All right, guys, let's go ahead and let's talk some Lower Decks here. All right, this is our first away mission here. A little bit of spoiler alert. I'm sure you've seen the episode if you're watching or listening to it, but just in case, spoiler alert. I'll let you know we are sensitive to that, kind of. Anyway,
No.
Haley's like, it's your fault. This is our episode review, our Admiral's Log episode synopsis. Haley, take it away.
All right. After receiving William Boimler's message, the Cerritos is dispatched to close the rift, which is extending a Schrodinger possibility field that is having strange effects on everything in the vicinity. Meanwhile, Ma'a and his brother Malor, on the run from Barg's vengeful sister Relga, seek asylum on the Cerritos, which comes under attack by Belga's fleet. Ensign Ollie uses her powers to drain Relga's shields, causing her ship to be destroyed by the rift. Although the Cerritos suffers from the effects of the Schrodinger field, it is able to reach the rift. Unable to close it, Mariner creates a dam that contains the destructive energy but leaves the rift permanently open. Starfleet begins a mission to explore the multiverse, overseen by Freeman and her husband from Starbase 80, which is immune to the rift's effects due to its outdated systems, and joined by the Anaximander crew. Ma'a is given command of Relga's fleet, while Jack Ransom is promoted to captain of the Cerritos. Before setting out on new adventures, Ransom promotes both Boimler and Mariner to provisional first officer, and Rutherford decides to permanently remove his cybernetic implant.
All right, let's get our first reactions to this episode. Kyle, let's start with you.
I just got your message. Oh my God, we're all gonna bleeping die! No, this was great. I mean, you add in last week's episode, which I know I wasn't here for that episode, and I thought that was a phenomenal episode of what they did, and just continuing it on into this. If you're going to wrap up Lower Decks, and I'm still want to be in denial that this was the final episode of Lower Decks, but this was a phenomenal episode to wrap it up on. There were so many great things. The storyline, all the fun they had with the Schrodinger's possibility field, and even until the end, the character growth in this show was so good. And to be able to include our Maha and Malor into this was great, and how they did it, and it worked, and it fit within the story, and that was what was so great about it. And there was a lot of the reference points from the season that they really brought back into this finale, and I think they did a phenomenal job with it, and everybody got a little bit of a moment in this finale, and I think it was really well done. But I still come back to it, even in the last episode, the character growth that happens with these characters, like they've done, especially this season, it's just been phenomenal.
Haley, what say you? What was your first reactions?
I'm falling out of love with this ship. Just kidding. It's not me. It's not me. No, I enjoyed this episode. I think they wrapped it up in a way that was very Trek and fit the story. And I enjoyed it. As a series finale, I think it was really, really well done. And especially for a show that I'm admittedly saying is not up there on my list for me as far as Star Trek goes. I did enjoy how they did this. It was great.
I did too. It didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. Of course, I really wasn't sure how it was going to go, but like I forgot about the Klingons. I didn't see that coming. But I guess they were trying to wrap some stuff up, which I do like. I like that at all. I liked the Klingon woman. Forgetting her name, but I love whatever little pet Targi cute thing that she kind of reminds me of, like those Karens that you'd see out there with a little tiny, like Chihuahua dog or something like that.
Do you know where that's from?
What's that?
It's TOS. When they Spock's dog is dressed as a unicorn. The dog, and they put it in the box, right? That's and it comes back different. That's exactly what that was. That was a TOS reference. There you go.
I loved it. That's great. But I did enjoy it. I like the fact that Ransom got to be the captain, but more importantly that the co-first officer things would be very interesting. And I started thinking, like, God, how's that going to go? And I'm like, Starbase 80, really? Okay. Is that worse than the Cerritos? So I don't know. So we'll get into that later. But let's hear Union Federation episode 207. We're of course talking about the new Next Generation. Let's get into we got some Easter eggs and trivia and stuff. And that we take some turns taking a stab at reading these. And I'll do the first one here. We got some trope tributes and canon connections and some continuity nods. The first one I have here is Relga is an extension of the Dorg and Blarg trope of Klingons, oftentimes being evil and not very honorable. And the fact that Dorg has so many relatives who keep appearing to trouble Ma is a great callback to the Duras family and their unending parade of siblings and relatives. I thought that was good. Haley, why don't you get us with the next one there?
Yeah. Another Star Trek trope that I love, quote, is when someone not from the crew tells a story or provides a metaphor that gives our more technologically sophisticated Starfleet crew an idea about how to save the day. In this episode, Malor does this by saying, he tells, we dam it. If the river's flooding, we just put a dam up.
There you go.
I mean, come on now.
We got some canon connections here, Kyle. Go ahead and hit us up.
Yeah, the brief appearance of a Star Trek Discovery Klingon when the Sultan anomaly alters the look of a regular Klingon is the first time that 2017 air design has been seen outside of Discovery's first 2 seasons.
I
like it animated.
Yeah, me too. The anomaly temporarily transforms the California class Cerritos into Freedom class, Sovereign class, Galaxy class, Oberth class, and Miranda class designs. Who's next? Is that
I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first in-dialogue reference to the Freedom class and its one nacelle, a design established in the destroyed Starfleet Armada in The Best of Both Worlds Part 2, though Tendi is cut off before she can explain how a one-nacelled ship can generate a warp bubble.
I think it's a cool design, but it's weird. Kyle, hit us with the next one.
The ancient Klingon sailing barge shares a resemblance to the ship that carries dishonored Klingons to Greythor, as seen in Barge of the Dead.
That was the Voyager episode with B'Elanna, in case you're curious. Yeah. Relga's crew transforms into proto-Klingons that Worf became when he de-evolved in TNG's Genesis.
The Enterprise E appears briefly stationed next to the Rift. This is the ship's first chronological appearance after the events of Star Trek Nemesis.
So wait a minute.
I really didn't catch that.
Yeah, so this is interesting because then I guess they fixed it because remember, I think it was Picard that made Troy, ram the Nemesis ship or whatever it was. So I guess they fixed it. Kyle, hit us with the next one there.
Lower Decks never got a Mirror Universe episode, but we do get to see what the ISS Cerritos looks like, complete with its amazing weapons, which, of course, immediately crashed before we could actually see any of them put to use.
And Shax was really he was bummed that he didn't get to press the control. But I gotta tell you, that shit, the ISS version looks pretty badass, though. I like that. That's pretty cool. Okay, I guess I'm next then here. The officer who falls from the glowing portal in sickbay is Lieutenant O'Connell. I think this is the pictures here, who ascended to the koala back in season 1's moist vessel. I have no memory of this, guys. He's even missing his shoes when he reappears, having left his uniform boots behind at the end of that season 1 episode. Did you guys catch this at all? Because I did not.
I didn't realize who it was until I just saw the portal and remember that episode now.
Yeah, I saw it, like, in all the little shots that they were doing, but it didn't register who it was. So
Haley, get us the next one here.
Relga's Bird of Prey is a new ship design for the Klingons, though as Dr. Ta'ana so aptly points out, Klingons hardly ever update their ship designs. They always want their ships to look like big, stupid birds.
I thought that was pretty funny. Kyle, get us next here.
With Ransom's engage the core catchphrase, I feel sore in the abs here all of a sudden. Also being a workout joke, we've hit the absolute pinnacle of the hilarity of Starship Cap.
I just got that. Oh my god.
You didn't. They even talk about it.
Oh my god.
Mariner even goes, "No, don't do it. It's a workout joke."
I didn't remember that, and I just
my
got
gosh,
that. Sorry to interrupt, Kyle. Continue.
That's cropped up in Trek over the last couple of years, and it now can be retired.
I want to see him keep saying it then. I freaking caught that. Oh my god, I feel so stupid. Engage the core.
I want one of them to be like, not necessarily say it, but maybe just like a short little brief snippet of Ludacris's song "Roll Out."
Roll out, yeah, roll out.
Or like, move, get out the way.
Ooh, oh god. Engage
Anyway.
the core is so funny now. Okay, I get it. All right, let's get into the next away mission here, guys. All right, I'd like to give Trek Core a shout out here. We like to use their articles from time to time. We've got one here. This is a series final review. Mike McMahon brings Star Trek Lower Decks into action-packed, poignant ensemble of a close in the new Next Generation. A series finale worthy of the Cerritos that provides a ton of satisfying character moments across a supersized episode. The new Next Generation is a big celebration of 5 seasons of Lower Decks and gives the Cerritos a chance to save the universe, which they accomplish. The new Next Generation, it certainly sets Star Trek Lower Decks up for a next chapter someday, whether that picks up shortly after the events of a new Next Generation or further down the line, that recaptures the same ensemble magic of the show in its current form and the ways in which the show shifts the Star Trek universe status quo, also set up plenty of fodder for new stories. There's plenty for Mariner, Boimler, Rutherford, Tendi, and T'Lyn to do, but this episode finds moments for many of the Cerritos' wider ensemble to get the final bow here. I want to kind of stop there, guys. Going forward, I was trying to think like how would they all kind of get back together again? I mean, obviously some of them are already together, but did you feel at the end of this episode, you're like, okay, next, maybe we'll see them in a movie or something? Where were you feeling after you just watched this, Haley?
I kind of look at this as similar to when TNG ended, where the ship just goes on, and yeah, we don't get to see it, but they continue having missions, and they continue to promote people, and they continue to just whatever you want your headcanon to be. I mean, I could see maybe some graphic novels. That would be cool. Right. For this, like a continuation story, I think that would be very fitting instead of, books, but have like graphic novels, because I know that they've done some graphic novels for some of the other stuff. I think that would be really a fun iteration and way to kind of continue the story. They very well could do like a movie.
That would be nice, yeah.
But I look at it as the same way I did TNG when TNG ended, where they just continue to go on. We're just not seeing it anymore. So,
right. Kyle, what about you? What do you think?
So I'm going to be honest. I half expected them to make the way they were talking in the ready room, and I know we'll talk about that more. Like they were almost going to announce something there because of the way this ended, but it feels like they left it open for them to all return at some point. I think there's a couple of things that are playing a factor in this. One, Jack Quaid has an immensely busy schedule ahead of him for the next couple of years as The Boys wraps up. He's still doing Superman. He's got a new movie coming out. I think we will see these characters again. I think they've become too beloved, especially I think Mariner and Boimler, especially. I think they've weaved their way in. I'm not ruling it past Tawny Newsome, especially if she's doing an office comedy, not to have like a view screen and we have an animated Mariner or Boimler up on a view screen or something like that. I mean, as long as Tawny Newsome is part of Trek, I think they will find a way to work these characters in. But I do hope maybe a couple years down the line they can find a way to do a short, a movie, a Lower Decks movie, or something else that is with these characters, because these characters are just too much fun to let disappear.
I would love to see the whole cast reunite at one of the Trek conventions, and then do a read through of some episode that someone wrote, that didn't make it to the screen or something. That'd be a lot of fun, something like that. That'd be great. All right, let's get to our topic number 1 here, guys. In addition to the strong focus on the Cerritos and its crew, the episode does expand a bit to capture the wider part of Lower Decks ensemble. The return of Ma, played by John Curry, and his brother Maylor, played by Sam Witwer. I believe Sam Witwer is also a Star Wars alumni. And having the villain be a sister of the cursed and dead Dorg and Barg. Totally works. Lower Decks is keeping its finale in the family, and Ma is one of the most successful characters outside of the core 5. It's such a nice arc from Wei Zhuge through the Inner Light and Farewell to Arms that while it risks the episode feeling a little burdened by its own legacy, it all works. I want to get your guys' thoughts on the little Klingon subplot that we had going here, including the cute little dog with the horn. Let's start with you, Haley.
No, I think it was nice because if it had just been the Cerritos going to fix this rift, like that was tension enough, but it wasn't tension inducing. And so I think that this added that additional level of tension that we've kind of always had, because it's a silly, ridiculous, seriously, we don't have time for this kind of tension, because that's also been a thing throughout Trek, right? We've seen it with TNG and Deep Space Nine, where they're on their way to go do something, and by golly, here come the Ferengi, or here come, the Romulans to interject and cause some issues. And it's like, hello, we're on a mission and we're busy. We've got to do this thing to whatever. And so I liked that aspect of it. And it was a way for them, again, to kind of throw in, what happens besides just to our Starfleet crew with these pulses that come out, how other races and beings would shift and change and stuff. So it's nice.
All right. Kyle, what about you? What do you think of this Klingon subplot here and reuniting these characters again?
If you were going to bring any subplot from the season back, it would have been this one. I loved this. This was one of my favorite episodes of this season with the brothers, and I was so glad to see them included and be part of this. And what I loved was the aspect of it got Mariner involved in a different story, but we also, because of this, get to see how much Mariner has gotten respect from the rest of the crew, because they just trust her immediately on this. And I love these characters, and I love the fact that they were able to help solve the solution, and just adding in that extra Klingon drama. I mean, heck, they throw it out right there. There's got to be a way we can bleep these things up like Kirk did.
Well said. Yeah, I enjoy these guys and I want to go back to the episode where the beginning of the episode has these guys farming on their planet, whatever, and just which to me was good character development without having to really say anything. You show it because they're farming, right? And then you see a bunch of targs wagging their tail, drinking out of the trough, just little things like that. It kind of says something about them. And they're really kind of the most fleshed out Klingon people I've seen in a long time, to be honest with you. And I kind of want to see live action version of these guys, or at least some very, very good cosplayers at one of these Star Trek conventions playing these brothers. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I love that, of course, you throw in the cranky sister and what happens there and stuff. So, yeah. All right, guys, the next topic I got to ask you guys about here, because I got questions. The decision to move Captain Freeman, played by Don Lewis, to Starbase 80, overseeing extra-dimensional exploration, and Jack Ransom's Jerry O'Connell, of course, elevation to captain was a nice way to end the series. But I want to focus here more on Captain Freeman. So first of all, they're overseeing extra-dimensional exploration. To me, I kind of feel like you don't want to explore that. You just want to stop it from happening. You know, kind of like Section 31 wanted to try and stop people from, you know, doing certain things. They were kind of like this unofficial police when we first were introduced to them in Deep Space Nine. I'm kind of curious, like, wouldn't this like open up new problems and then solve them, or is it really an exploration thing that won't mess up everything else? Okay, Haley, I'm going to come to you because you're the science girl here. What do you think? And plus, I think this is a shit job, to be honest with you. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, so it's kind of like Deep Space Nine, right? The thing is there. We have to kind of regulate it and safeguard it and allow the exploration while also making sure, right, that we're not messing with timelines or things like that. So I imagine that they chose Starbase 80, as they say in the episode, because its technology is not going to be affected because it's so old and outdated. So that completely makes sense. New technology is not going to necessarily want to incorporate stuff that's so old that it's irrelevant. It's just pointless. So, and I can see where Captain Freeman is going to be in charge because she's been experiencing this, right? They were instructed and they were charged with closing these rifts that kept popping up all over the place. So I can see that. I can see why her husband comes and joins because, right, he's an admiral. And I can imagine that they are, again, with Starfleet and whatever other planets that aren't maybe necessarily a part of Starfleet, but are close to where this thing is, they're getting on board and they're saying, okay, sitting down and like deciding what rules. But my guess is they put Starbase 80 there so that when things come through this rift, they stop at Starbase 80, right? That's the depth of their exploration, right? If they want to talk to their counterparts that are here, right, either their counterparts can come to 80 or, they video in or something like that so that they can interact. But that's where they're going to study, where those dimensions can come and study this dimension. And then from there, this dimension can go into other ones and explore. And then it's just kind of coming back to Starbase 80. So everything's contained there. And it's a way to regulate it so that there is no interdimensional, not shifts, but problems, we'll say.
What do you think, Kyle?
Okay, first of all, you do realize now they have literally created a way to bring any Star Trek character back at any time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but
yes, that's a good thing, I guess.
It's like Orphan Black. Do you want to? Because remember, not all those versions of yourself are going to be very good ones.
Yeah, reminds me of that Michael Keaton movie, Multiplicity.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. But I'm just saying that they've just literally opened the door for any Star Trek actor in history to come back and be on Trek. But
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as Captain Freeman goes, she obviously is a sucker for self-abuse because you go from the Cerritos to Starbase 80, and come on, let's be honest here. How well is that going to help her marriage with her husband, an admiral on Starbase 80, with no golf course and no holodeck?
Okay, here's another question that came up while Haley, you were talking. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we saw who was on Starbase 80. No one can pick they don't seem to all have matching uniforms. Does that change? Does she bring a little order to Starbase 80? Does she keep the crew there? I'm kind of curious what happens with that dichotomy of the people that are there right now.
But it's the same as her crew on the Cerritos. They're this hodgepodge of people that don't seemingly work well together, but they do. Maybe they all get the same uniforms, but I think she's going to keep the people that she has. I think she's going to bring in new people. And also remember the Anaximander crew joined Starbase 80 as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's going to be a well-rounded run Starbase. Her husband's just going to have to adjust.
Are you guys worried about Ransom being in command, Kyle?
Honestly, no.
No.
I think this is a natural progression, and I think Mike McMahon did this so Jerry O'Connell can look at Rebecca Romaine and say, "You will call me captain."
I'm definitely curious to see what's going to happen for sure. So.
I think it's a great fit, you know. I mean, yes, he's ridiculous, but as we saw in the previous episode, he's really good. He knows what he's doing. He might go about it in a way that we're not necessarily used to, but I think he's going to be a great captain. I think this is, you know, yes, this whole like, I love this picture because Brad's like, oh God, I'm really nervous because he really wants to be.
Look at Mariner. She's just like, God damn it.
Yeah. Like Boimler really wants to be first officer, but he's really nervous about it still because he doesn't trust himself. Right. Yeah. So it's bringing up that insecurity. Ransom knows that he can do it. And I think he also knows that Mariner doesn't want it because she's been resistant to upward growth anyway, which I think she's enjoying where she's at. And I think she wants rank, but she wants it slower. She wants it at her pace. Brad wants it fast. Boimler wants it fast, but he also doesn't trust himself to think that he's ready for it as fast as he is. So I like this notion of like, you guys are going to both because then they can see where they want to do growth, but I think he knows what he's doing.
So the topic 3 I have here is the article on Trek Core says a Star Trek series finale fall into one of 2 buckets. Episodes like All Good Things, which provide a big finale television adventure for the crew, but set them up for continued adventures, and What You Leave Behind, which provides a more definitive end to the story as the crew splits up and moves on to new chapters of their lives. The new Next Generation fits pretty comfortably in between those archetypes. It does change the status quo for the Cerritos, but in many ways, it keeps the core characters together and sends them off on new adventures. When Star Trek Lower Decks was announced, I was one of many fans who had made a lot of throat-clearing noises about how we weren't sure a concept like this could ever work for Star Trek, that adult animated Star Trek comedy wouldn't be for us, that we were skeptical about the whole endeavor. Lower Decks proved me wrong on that from the very first episode and kept proving me wrong across the last 5 years. This series is just Star Trek as any other and more Star Trek than some. Mike McMahon and the whole team have given the fans such a gift. Paramount should do everything in its power to keep a talent like his as close to the franchise as possible. Completely agree. So my question to you guys is, it's a 2-parter here. Did Lower Decks prove you wrong, and was that a satisfying series finale? Haley.
Oh gosh. Yes and no. Because, and I think it goes back to my own view where, you know, this isn't my style, but I think humor works. And I think this style and having this type of show, it definitely works because there would be ships like this. There are going to be people like this in Starfleet, in a live action show. And so I think this style works. And because there are so many fans who love this, and this is like their Trek, I think it's great. I think it's something that should have been done, and I'm glad that it fits now. I think this was a perfect timing for this type of show. Because, you know, we've had the serious, we've had the silly, we've had the long adventures, we've had the tense, we've had everything, but we haven't had just a truly ridiculous kind of series where, yes, there's serious moments, but it's just kind of ridiculous. And so I think that is great. Um, and I do think it was a satisfying ending. I think it wrapped it up really well. And I already said I feel like it's left it where these characters just live on in your head. And however you want to have them to have stories and adventures, go for it.
Nice. Kyle, did this series prove you wrong? And was the series finale satisfying?
I was excited for this coming out, but I did have some skeptical. It proved me wrong in the aspect of we were coming into a Mike McMahon experience where most of our Mike McMahon stuff was the outrageous Rick and Morty. And so we were not sure how he was going to treat Trek and handle Trek. And I think that proved me wrong, that he knew what he was doing. And I think he did pay a lot of respect to Trek. And that aspect of it proved me wrong. But as far as Lower Decks succeeding, it succeeded because it gave us characters we fell in love with. You know, it gave us characters who brought us in. And it did it in a way where you could have only done it with animation. You couldn't have done this in live action, even though we had the great, Strange New World episode with the two of them in it. But they got away with the things they could get away with here in animation, and because of how they were working, made this show work. And I'll say it proved me wrong because it was actually better than even what I thought it could be. And I think it really proved me wrong there. And as far as the series finale, yes, it was absolutely a satisfying series finale in every aspect of, right up there with all the other Trek finales. I think it gave you everything you wanted out of it, except for the fact that you want more of it.
So I was familiar with Rick and Morty, but not the show. I never watched it. I didn't know the exact target audience, but I knew a lot of adults liked it. And I remember watching a part of an episode just to kind of get an idea of the animation before ever seeing anything really, full episode of this series. I'm going to answer satisfying series finale. Yes, it was for me. I was happy with it. I like how things came together. But this series did prove me wrong, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's an adult animated series, to be perfectly honest with you, and that's a good thing. They're able to get away with some humor and some funny stuff as well. But what I really, really liked about it was that they said things that if I was in Starfleet, I would say. When you go back and when I go back and watch my beloved Star Trek TNG and they're conversing with each other, I love it. But there's things that I would say that maybe they wouldn't have said. And I feel like from a fan's point or an everyday person behind the scenes, because they're Lower Decks characters, they can say these things and they can make reference to other Star Trek moments and stuff like that, because you would learn about that being in that world. You would see the news, you talk to people or what have you. And I love the fact that we got a lot of the call outs and a lot of the Easter eggs and canon connections and stuff, but it was done in a way with love. It wasn't done it just to do it. And sometimes it was done in a way to where it helped the storyline and stuff like that. And to me, this has been one of the biggest surprises on what I'm just going to call new Trek since Paramount Plus has come out. We started getting Trek on streaming. It's been one of the most fun series. It makes me laugh. And I absolutely adore the look of the show. I adore the animation of it. They don't chintz on any of it. And the thing that I was concerned about after the first couple episodes of seeing the funny, sometimes crass humor, but also seeing, a lot of the Easter eggs and canon connections was, are these characters going to evolve and develop and not just stay in this rut and be the same thing? And they did. And that really was surprising to me. So yes, it proved me wrong and it exceeded my expectations. Kyle.
I just want to add in too, because you talked about like the modern era of Trek, this Paramount Plus era. I think truthfully, these might be characters that the Trek universe as a whole cares more about than any of the other Star Trek things that have come out about Paramount Plus. I mean, yes, Discovery has its fans. I love Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds is still my favorite Trek of the Paramount Plus era. But I think there was a connection with these characters and with these voice actors. As great as I know how the Discovery cast has been with the fans, I think there's a general love for these characters that surpasses the love for Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and that. I mean, especially when you consider how fast people were cosplaying as these characters and things like that. And I think that's really something very important to take into consideration with this.
Well, the next thing I want to talk about is I want to give some love to the cast here. And here's a picture we've had, of course, throughout this final season here. This is the main 4 character members with Mike McMahon, the creator. And I've been inspired by this question I'm going to ask you because of we finally get to see the cast that we're going to talk about with the Ready Room with Will Wheaton. We're going to discuss that in a little bit. But I want to ask you guys, I want to ask you, first of all, who is your favorite Lower Decks character of the main cast and of the secondary returning cast members or the ones that, come in and out? Which one is your favorite there? Haley, I want to start with you.
Oh, geez. My favorite of these 4, I would have to say, is Rutherford. Me and my engineers. Dang it.
Yeah.
I know. No, I've always liked Rutherford. I just kind of always liked his character and, how he was incorporating, his cyber stuff with his human part, which, to a TNG fan is just kind of that continuation of, part Borg, part human, and how do those two live with each other and whatnot. So that psychology of everything. And then we had that, and I'm kind of sad about this, actually. I'm going to bring this up with Rutherford. We had that snippet of him having those dreams and they never readdressed like how things happened to him and what happened. And I know we'll talk about it, but in the Ready Room, they kind of mentioned that, now that he's decided to get rid of, his cyber eye and that part of him, and at the end of the episode, he's got 2 eyes and now he doesn't have things, making sure his dopamine's staying like at a certain level all the time. He's blushing when Tendy's talking to him and touches him and things like that. How that is going to change for him. They address it that, he's going to have to deal with things that he hasn't dealt with because he's been able to suppress all these memories. And that's kind of something I wish kind of had maybe gotten a little dressed in the show. And so I'm going to have to say in my head it will. But yeah, it's always the engineers for me. The other one I do like, and it's a tie between Shax and Billups, which again, engineering and weapons. So yeah.
Gotcha. Kyle, who's your favorite main cast member and your secondary favorite?
It's hard to pick. It's honestly hard to pick a favorite, especially because of the way they did this show with pairing Tendi and Rutherford and Boimler and Mariner, because they really are one unit when you break, especially Boimler and Mariner. I'm gonna have, as much as I love Tawny Newsome, I'm gonna have to go with Boimler because I think he's the character who grew the most, truthfully. And also the fact Jack Quaid is just, I love Jack Quaid. I think he's great, and he's so much fun. But I mean, it's neck and neck between him and Mariner because they did such great character growth with all of them, but with those two especially, it was just so good. And their relationship was the heart of this show. I truly believe that. And I mean, the relationship of the 4 of them was outstanding, but especially that Boimler Mariner relationship from where it started to where it ended was so good. As far as secondary characters, I love Ransom. Ransom is just, he's fun. And the great thing about it is he's almost in a way like an idiot savant. Like he
engaged the core.
Yeah. I mean, just how he kind of outsmarts everybody and plays this, I'm this like just super jock guy, but there's a lot more to Ransom than what everybody thinks. And it's one of the reasons why Freeman sees it so much. And again, he was the character that I think too, that really, of all of that main group, they really kind of grew a lot during this too, of the secondary characters and how he got respect from Mariner and Boimler through the process, especially Mariner.
Yeah. My favorite is Tendi. She's just adorable, and such a science nerd. But I love that we get her whole family side with the Orion stuff going on. I love that was explored, and she became, she was also a kick-ass, like, pirate as well when she went into that world, and that she came back. I loved her story arc totally, and I also like the relationship she has with
Rutherford.
Rutherford, thank you. Yeah. And that they have a bond. I like that. And so I like that. My secondary characters, I'm with you, Haley. I love Billups, played by Paul Scheer. I'm a fan of Paul Scheer as an actor and a comedian. And I liked it when he came and did stuff. But who grew on me too was Talin, played by Gabrielle Ruiz. I would give her an honorary shout out because she ended up becoming kind of a main character. She kind of came in and she stayed, and then she kind of became a friend or competitor or whatever you want to talk about it with Tendi as well. So yeah. All right, guys, let's go ahead and you know what? Guess what? We got a ready room to go to finally. We've been wondering if we were going to get a ready room here celebrating these cast members, and we did. It's up on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, go to Paramount Plus, or you can just search for the ready room hosted by Will Wheaton. And this was a good one, guys. I was really happy that we finally got the 4 main cast members interviewed by Will Wheaton there on the ready room couch. And Will Wheaton celebrates the series finale with Star Trek Lower Decks and with Tawny Newsome, who plays Beckett Mariner, Jack Quaid, Brad Boimler, Noel Wells, Devon Attendee, and Eugene Cordero as Sam Rutherford. And I pulled out some highlights here, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. I love how Noel Wells, who plays Tendi, and Eugene, they talk about their characters' relationships. Tiny Newsome and Jack Quaid discuss the camaraderie as code number ones. And each cast member, and this is the reason why I asked you guys, each cast member had to pick a USS Cerrito crew member that they liked that wasn't their own, that they loved. And Tawny Newsome chose Steve Levy, the conspiracy theorist, who said Wolf 359 was an inside job. The fact that he was actually, him being a crew member was insanely weird. Noel Wells chose Dr. Miglimo. Eugene Cadero loves Paul Scheer as engineer Andy Billups. Jack Quaid loved Winger Bingston Jr. He has a one-man show on the Cerritos and is a mini celebrity on the Cerritos. He's also voiced by Eugene Cadero. I want to kind of get you guys' thoughts on the ready room. I have some other notes here I'll bring up later. Let's start with you, Haley.
Yeah, it was nice to, I think, see this and round out the season by talking to these guys. And I know I'll probably mention it, but I loved, the look back with talking with other actors who voiced on the show and what they enjoyed about it. And, some of them mentioned, being able to be part of this Star Trek family, so to speak. And that was really nice. I think it was a great way to kind of round out the series.
Kyle.
One of the big things I pulled from this ready room, and I think it was a great episode, especially to have the 4 of them on and so many of them making comments, but there was a point too that Jack Quaid brought up about how the fact when you do voice work, most of these voice actors just go in a booth by themselves and they don't even get to meet the other members of their cast, maybe at all, unless it's like at a convention or at a special event or something like that. And to the fact that this cast is still so close, I think just comes across just as close as TNG is, close as Discovery, as close as Strange New Worlds cast, is something that's very special because who knows how much they actually got to work together, and that they are so bonded together by this and they become such a family in their own right because of this, I think is absolutely amazing. And just something that shows you again just how special the Lower Decks experience has been.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's, partly because we have conventions. We have Star Trek Las Vegas, and I know some of them got to go. So I can only imagine, the amount of, collaboration and, after COVID, obviously, getting pulled in probably to sit and talk and discuss things. And the fact, that Tawny and Jack were live action part of, a Strange New World episode probably helped too, I think, is just something. I think.
Oh, you mean like these pictures here?
I think it's just something where, again, it's Star Trek. You are pulled in and it's a family. Even though this was an animated series, you're still part of that. You get asked to come to the convention in Vegas and you get asked to do things and events that a lot of other shows aren't even a part of, because it's not that they don't have fans. It's just that there's not this collaboration and this big gathering or gatherings of fans. There's not millions of podcasts about, all these other shows that, interview and talk about this. And so I think that's something that's just pretty special with Star Trek in general. And not that other fandoms don't do that. I know there's like Who stuff and all the other stuff, but it really is such a huge thing for Star Trek specifically.
Good points. Some other highlights here too that I thought was kind of cool was the great look back at the 5 seasons of Lower Deck with creator Mike McMahon. And he said something I thought was really interesting that really is key to why this show is successful, is that one of the keys to the show was not only the main cast be Lower Decks, but the bridge command be kind of Lower Decks, and the ship itself had to be Lower Decks. So all of it had, that's why they had a different, that's probably why they came up with the California class ship, because it didn't look as cool as some of the other ones, although I think it looks awesome. Jack Quaid said the Cerritos looks like one of those ships you'd see in the background, Eugene Cordero says the Cerritos kind of like an elementary school. It has more places for puffy paint and for you to make a mess. And Fred Tascadori, who plays Shax, gave a voice to the Cerritos, so you have to watch the video to get that. But you touched on a lot of the other interviews that were really cool in this, Haley. And those interviews were Don Lewis as Carol Freeman was interviewed, Paul Scheer as Engineer Andy Billups, Paul F. Tompkins as Dr. Miglimo, Gabriel Ruiz as Talin, who comments about the cursing of the show, which was funny. Jerry O'Connell as Jack Rose and talks about living in a Star Trek household with his wife, who was on Star Trek New Worlds. And of course, they interviewed Jillian Bigman, who plays Tiana as well. And Will Wheaton discusses the multiverse with the Lower Decks cast and their alternate universe versions of themselves. And then the cast also reflected on the end of the show and being on the Star Trek universe and family. And also mentioning being on Star Trek Strange New Worlds and working with Jonathan Frakes, who directed that episode. So that was a lot of fun. It was a great episode. Make sure you check it out. Now, I did want to mention this because it was reported. I don't know if it's true or not. There's speculation. Is Star Trek The Ready Room ending? According to, Trek Central, Ready Room ends. A new Ready Room is out now for Star Trek Lower Deck series finale. Will Wheaton concludes with a touching and ambiguous final farewell, appearing to signal the end of the long-running behind-the-scenes show. Now, I just watched this again. I know you did too, Haley. I know you did too, Kyle. I didn't get any feeling that the show is ending. It's maybe a while before they return to it. Unless they know something I don't. I didn't get that feeling. Haley, I want to ask you. Well said.
I didn't pick up on anything. I think it's probably going to be a while because, again, we don't have anything yet. We have, again, suggested it's not going to return because we have Section 31 next month, right? Yeah. Strange New Worlds Season 3 is coming out. Then we have the Academy in production. I don't think it's necessarily that it's not coming back. It might be something where if Will Wheaton's got a lot going on, he might not do one for every single episode. But I don't think it's ending, and that's just, I think people stop trying to read into things that are not there. Stop putting things that are not there.
Unless you have evidence. Yeah.
No, stop speculating, because then you put this out there and then other people are like,
and Will Wheaton's just so good at this. Go ahead, Kyle. Your thoughts.
Honestly, guys, I did kind of get a little bit of that vibe from Will. And I guess because there's other things going on in the business side of Trek with the sale and everything like that. And I kind of wonder, streaming is still an evolving thing. I hope it's not the end of it. I would like to see it come back maybe in another form, or it's just like a beginning of the season, end of season kind of thing, or even like a mid-season kind of thing. But, there's a lot of things going on with Paramount and CBS right now on the business side that, we don't talk about that a lot here, but there is, and it could be affecting the approach and what's going to happen with the streaming service and things like that. So I would just put it this way. I hope it's not the end of the Ready Room, but I do think if this was the last Ready Room, Will Wheaton took his moment and he did a beautiful job with it. And
I love the fact that he's wearing a badgie pin too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see Will back as well. I didn't quite read into that. I could see why, but I hope he does return. Well, guys, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. This is Star Trek Lower Decks, the end of an era. 5 seasons in the making, now done for Lower Decks. What a great ride. No more episodes. I'm sad, but we're not done here with Union Federation. Next month in January of 2025, we're going to be returning to the Orville. We're going to be highlighting each main crew member and a couple of their good episodes and talking about them. And we need a reason to return to the Orville, guys. Hopefully it's the news about the Orville being renewed that we think we got from one of the cast members. We'll see. But we are going to show some Orville love again. So, and also, too, we're going to cover Section 31. The new trailer, of course, is out for the Paramount Plus exclusive movie starring Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh. Well, so we'll definitely get into that. Again, this is episode 207, Union Federation. I want to get your final thoughts on this last episode. Hey, let's start with you.
I enjoyed it. It was really good. Really, really well done. And I have to say, because we didn't mention it, but I really loved the look of that. How they closed the rift, boxed it up, I guess, so to speak, contained its energy. The look of it is really cool. Just putting that out there.
Good call. Kyle, final thoughts?
A great season finale to a phenomenal show. A show I think that has changed Trek and changed how a lot of people view Trek. And I think it brought in a lot of new people to the Star Trek universe that wouldn't have explored it otherwise. And I think it really was a great gateway show for that. And I think it will continue to be that. And I think there's going to never be a show again that will match what Lower Decks was, even if we come back to these characters. I think this was something ended up becoming something very special and gave us characters that I think will be in Star Trek canon for the rest of the time that Star Trek exists. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think for a lot of people too, it gave them a new experience in Trek that they never thought they would have or even knew that they wanted, but they still got it. And I think, I'm sad to see it go. I am disappointed that right now I don't have another episode to watch next week, or I'm not going to have another season to watch of it. I hope that someday we return to these characters in a similar type of format. But just to Mike McMahon and everybody who worked on Lower Decks, thank you so much for a great 5-year mission of Lower Decks.
Well said. I couldn't have said that better, Kyle. I appreciate your thoughts on that. And it's funny, too, Haley and I were talking before we started recording. I hope they release the entire series in a physical media Blu-ray or something like that, because I would gobble that up. Feel like, one of my favorite Star Treks is together in a little companion piece there. I feel that Lower Decks was a wonderful love letter to Star Trek fans as well, the way it was done. Not only just creating great new characters and story arcs, but also just showing love to the rest of the Star Trek universe. I'm trying to think, guys, was there a Star Trek series that it didn't cover? Even the animated series. I mean, I think it touched on every single Star Trek TV series that I can remember. Did they touch on Picard? No, maybe. I don't know. But no, because of the time frame, right? But yeah. I mean, everything else that they could, with the exception of Future Discovery. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just it did a great job. So I'm gonna miss it. I hope it comes back in some incarnation. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up here. This is, of course, Union Federation podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, and also, of course, on the BQN. We are now on Blue Sky, guys. Myself and everyone else here, but the Fandom Podcast Network is on Blue Sky at FanPod Network. Make sure you check us out. And the Fandom Podcast Network, of course, is on YouTube. Make sure you give us a subscribe, share us out there. To appreciate that. We're also, of course, on Facebook. And you can also email the Union Federation at Union Federation at theunionfederation@gmail.com. Union Federation is also on Instagram and X. And my name is Kevin. You can find me at Spartan_Phoenix at all of the social medias. But on Blue Sky, I'm Spartan Phoenix. Haley, how can we find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky and on Instagram at Trekkie01D.
Kyle, how can we find you, sir?
You can find me on Blue Sky at AKyleW. You can find me on X at AKyleW. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. And you can find me hanging with the Dolphins on the Cerritos.
Love the Dolphins. Love the Dolphins. Wasn't one of them called Todd or Ted or Bill or so? I just thought that was kind of funny.
I don't remember.
Boimler's like hosing one down. I thought that was great. By the way, give some love to us if you like I got my cool Union Federation t-shirt here. Please head to the Fandom Podcast Network store on TeePublic. We've got logos for all of our shows here on the network, and each time you purchase something, you get a little kickback here to keep the sublight engines going here on Union Federation Starship. Again, this is Star Trek Lower Deck Season 5, Episode 10, The New Next Generation. Farewell, Lower Decks. It was a great ride. And until next time, guys. Haley, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Kyle, as always, thank you, sir.
Friendship, man. Friendship.
All right, guys. Until next time, live long and prosper. And we are without a doubt the weirdest ship in the fleet. See you guys next time.